Welcome to Unmasking Tales. Today, we will discuss another Reddit story
Okay.
with the title, I Run Away Because I'm Child-Free and I Feel Like My Fiancé Was Trying to Get Me Pregnant. Buckle up, listeners, because this one has twists and turns you won't believe,
Oh, yeah.
and it even comes with an update.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Okay,
this is going to be good.
yeah,
What's fascinating about this story is how it throws light on something we don't talk about enough,
right.
reproductive coercion. It's a subtle form of manipulation, and this story shows just how easily seemingly innocent actions can take a dark turn.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Okay.
We have a 26-year-old woman, who we'll call Ope,
Mm-hmm.
who has always been clear about not wanting kids.
Okay.
She even says she's known since she was a child. She
Wow.
discusses this with her fiancé, and initially he seems totally on board.
Okay.
They get engaged,
Uh-huh.
move in together the whole 9 yards.
It's important to note that OP was incredibly upfront about her desire to be child-free, and her fiancé, at least at first, seemed to respect her decision.
Right.
This wasn't a case of hidden intentions. It was a blatant disregard for a clearly stated boundary.
And that's where things take a turn.
Okay.
OP's fiancé's sister has a baby, and suddenly he's obsessed. He's practically living at his sister's place, helping out all the time.
Oh, geez.
And then comes the incident that sets off alarm bells.
Okay.
OP is at the sister's house and is basically forced to hold this screaming baby. Now, I'm not a parent, but I've definitely been around enough babies to know that sometimes they just cry, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Exactly. It's a normal part of being a baby, but instead of supporting OP in a potentially uncomfortable situation, her fiancé snaps a picture of her holding the crying baby and says, "He really suits you."
Yikes.
Yeah.
That sets off major red flags for me. Then he's trying to create this image of her as a mother, even though she's visibly uncomfortable.
Right.
It completely disregards her feelings and almost forces her into a role she never wanted.
It reminds me of those viral videos where someone keeps handing a clearly terrified person a spider or a
Oh,
snake. It's played for laughs, but it's actually a form of coercion.
right.
You're forcing someone into an experience they don't want and then trivializing their fear. In this case, it goes even deeper because it touches on societal expectations of women and motherhood.
And things spiral from there. The fiancé sets this picture of OP with the crying baby as his phone wallpaper starts calling her mama and insists on unprotected sex despite knowing OP is adamantly child-free and that abortion is illegal in their country.
Wow, this goes beyond a creepy comment. It's a clear pattern of manipulative behavior.
Yeah,
He's trying to pressure her into conforming to his vision of their future, completely disregarding her autonomy and choices.
at this point, OP is understandably freaking out.
Yeah.
She knows something is seriously wrong and decides to make a run for it. She tells her fiancé she needs to go care for her mom, packs her essentials, including her dog, which, by the way, is a major win in my book,
Haha, I agree.
and hightails it back to her home country.
Wow.
It's a daring escape, and you can almost feel the tension and fear in her writing.
It's important to acknowledge OP's incredible strength and resilience in this situation. She recognized the danger, trusted her instincts, and took decisive action to protect herself.
Right.
She didn't try to rationalize his behavior or minimize her own feelings. She knew something was off, and she got out.
Mm-hmm.
That's a powerful message for anyone who might be in a similar situation.
Right.
You don't have to wait for things to escalate to a crisis point. If something feels wrong, trust your gut.
Right. And what's fascinating is that OP provides an update.
Oh, good.
Because, of course, we all want to know what happens next.
Of course.
She takes a pregnancy test, negative Hugh,
Oh, thank goodness.
confides in her mom and sisters, and gets amazing support from her boss, who basically becomes her guardian angel in this whole ordeal.
This highlights something crucial, the importance of a strong support system. In situations like this, having people you can trust and rely on can be incredibly validating and empowering.
Absolutely. And OP's boss goes above and beyond. He's furious that she was put in this position and pushed some strings to help her get a new job back in her home country. That kind of support can be life-changing, especially when you're feeling vulnerable and isolated.
It speaks volumes about the boss's character and his understanding of the situation. He doesn't question OP's choices or try to minimize what happened. He immediately recognizes the seriousness of the situation and steps up to provide practical and emotional support.
Now, here's where the story gets really interesting.
Ooh, okay.
OP, still trying to piece everything together, decides to confront her fiancé's sister.
Wow, okay.
She suspects there might be some kind of plan or manipulation going on behind the scenes.
This was a smart move on OP's part. She wanted to get a clearer picture of a situation and understand if she was being deliberately targeted. It's like trying to solve a mystery, and she needed more information to complete the puzzle.
And get this, the sister is completely in the dark about her brother's behavior and is absolutely horrified by it. Talk about a family dynamic gone wrong.
It's a reminder that even those closest to us can be deceived by manipulative behavior. It also reinforces the fact that we should never be afraid to ask questions or to challenge behavior that seems suspicious, even if it involves family.
So OP is armed with this new information and the unwavering support of her boss and his son, who are basically her personal hype squad at this point.
Yeah.
She decides it's time for the final showdown, breaking up with her fiancé.
It's interesting how she chooses to have her boss and his son present for the breakup. It's almost like having witnesses to ensure her safety and provide moral support.
Right.
This speaks to the very real fear many people, particularly women, feel when ending relationships that have involved manipulation or control.
It's like she's reclaiming her power and agency, surrounding herself with allies who have her back, and saying, I'm not alone in this and I won't be intimidated. And let me tell you, her fiancé's reaction does not disappoint. We're talking full-on telenovela drama tears, promises even a hint of those stalker vibes that send chills down your spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It's almost comical how his mask slips and we see the true nature of his character. The over-the-top reaction, the attempts to guilt and manipulate her, all of it points to a deep-seated need for control.
But OP holds strong, shuts down his dramatic pronouncements with a perfectly timed, first of all, this isn't a telenovela, so calm down, walks away with her dignity intact. You go, girl.
This moment is so empowering. It demonstrates that even when facing intense emotional pressure and manipulation, it's possible to stay true to oneself and make the difficult choices that protect your well-being.
Yeah.
It's like she's finally breaking free from the spell he's tried to cast over her.
And there's this hilarious twist where her boss's son accidentally reveals that OP never even told her family about the engagement.
Oh, really?
Apparently she had some subconscious reservations all along, and I don't blame her one bit.
That's a fascinating detail. It suggests that perhaps a part of her knew this relationship wasn't right. Even though she was consciously committed, there are these underlying doubts that she hadn't fully addressed.
It makes you wonder how often we ignore those subtle warning signs, especially when we're caught up in the excitement of a new relationship. It's a good reminder to pay attention to those gut feelings and to be honest with ourselves about any red flags we might be brushing aside.
Absolutely. Sometimes those seemingly small details can reveal a lot about the bigger picture. It's like those optical illusions where you see one image at first glance, but when you look closer, you realize there's something else hidden within the design.
So the story ends with OP safely back home pursuing therapy to process everything that's happened, starting her new job soon. And she's even begun the process of getting a tubal ligation.
Good for her.
She even shares some funny anecdotes about her dog being a feminist icon and her boss's son accidentally spilling the beans about the engagement.
It's a truly hopeful ending. She's not only physically safe, but also taking proactive steps to heal and reclaim her life. The fact that she's pursuing therapy shows a commitment to her mental and emotional well-being, and her decision to get sterilized demonstrates her determination to control her reproductive future.
It's inspiring to see her emerge from this experience stronger and more determined than ever.
Right.
She didn't let this break her. She used it as an opportunity to grow and define her own path.
Her story is a powerful example of resilience and the importance of trusting your instincts.
Yes.
You faced a challenging and potentially dangerous situation head-on and came out on the other side with a renewed sense of self and a purpose.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to the broader issue of reproductive coercion.
Okay.
Because as we've seen in this story, it's a subtle and insidious form of abuse that can be hard to recognize.
You're right. It's often masked by seemingly loving or caring behavior, making it even more challenging to identify and address.
And it's not just limited to romantic relationships. It can happen within families, between friends, or even in professional settings.
Exactly. It's about one person exerting control over another person's reproductive choices, regardless of the relationship dynamics.
So what are some red flags that our listeners should be aware of? What are some signs that someone might be experiencing reproductive coercion?
That's a great question. There are really subtle and not so subtle signs to watch out for. For example, if your partner is constantly questioning or criticizing your reproductive choices, that's a red flag.
Like if you're happy using condoms and they're constantly pushing for you to go on hormonal birth control.
Yes, or if you've made it clear you don't want kids and they're always dropping hints about starting a family, buying baby clothes, or making comments about how good you'd be as a parent.
It's like they're trying to wear you down and make you question your own desires.
Exactly. Another red flag is if they're sabotaging your birth control methods. This can be anything from poking holes in condoms to flushing your pills down the toilet.
That's terrifying. It's a complete violation of trust and a blatant attempt to manipulate the situation.
And it can have serious consequences. Remember the case of Naeem, who was secretly given birth control pills by her husband for years without her knowledge. It was a shocking example of how far some people will go to control someone else's reproductive choices.
That case was a wake-up call for many people. It highlighted how reproductive coercion can happen in secret, often leaving the victim feeling confused, betrayed, and completely powerless.
Another red flag is if your partner is using emotional manipulation or threats to try to influence your decisions. This could involve guilt trips, ultimatums, or even threats to leave the relationship if you don't comply with their wishes.
For example, saying things like, if you really love me, you'd want to have my baby, or I'll leave you if you get an abortion.
Exactly. These are all tactics designed to control and manipulate your choices. It's important to remember that you have the right to make your own decisions about your body and your reproductive health without pressure or coercion from anyone else.
It's also important to be aware that reproductive coercion is often linked to other forms of abuse, such as physical, emotional, or financial abuse. It's rarely an isolated incident, but rather part of a larger pattern of controlling and abusive behavior.
That's a crucial point. If you're experiencing any form of abuse, including reproductive coercion, please know that you're not alone and there is help available.
There are resources, hotlines, and organizations dedicated to supporting victims of domestic violence and reproductive coercion. Don't be afraid to reach out for help.
You deserve to be treated with respect, and your choices should be honored and valued.
I know this has been a heavy topic and we've covered a lot of ground today, but I think it's so important to bring these issues to light.
I agree. Silence only protects abusers. By talking about these issues openly and honestly, we can empower individuals to recognize the signs of reproductive coercion and seek help when they need it.
And that's ultimately what we're trying to do here at Unmasking Tales: spark conversations, raise awareness, and create a space where these difficult but essential discussions can take place.
Right.
This deep dive into OP's story and the broader issue of reproductive coercion has been incredibly eye-opening. It's a stark reminder that these issues can affect anyone, regardless of age, background, or relationship status.
It's about recognizing that manipulation and control can take many forms, and that sometimes the most insidious forms of abuse are hidden beneath a veneer of love or concern.
And it's so important to trust our instincts.
Right.
If something feels wrong in a relationship, it probably is. We need to be willing to speak up, set boundaries, and seek help when we need it.
Absolutely. And we need to create a culture where these conversations aren't taboo, where people feel safe coming forward and sharing their experiences without fear of judgment or shame.
OP's story resonated with so many people online because it touched on a universal fear: the fear of losing control over our own bodies and reproductive choices. It's a fear that's deeply rooted in societal expectations, power dynamics, and often a lack of awareness about what constitutes healthy versus unhealthy relationship behavior.
You're right. And it's a fear that's often amplified for those who are already marginalized or facing systemic barriers such as people of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, or those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. These groups are often disproportionately affected by reproductive coercion and may have fewer resources or support systems to turn to.
This story also highlighted the importance of having a strong support network. OP's family, friends, and even her boss played a crucial role in helping her escape a dangerous situation and rebuild her life.
It's a reminder that we don't have to go through these experiences alone. There are people who care about us, who will believe us, and who will support us in making the choices that are right for us.
So to our listeners, what resonated with you in this story? Did any particular details stand out to you, or did it spark any personal reflections? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Share your experiences and insights with us on social media. Let's continue this conversation and create a community of awareness and support.
Because unmasking these kinds of tales, shedding light on the darker sides of relationships and societal expectations, is something we can only do together.
Remember, your voice matters, and by sharing our stories and listening to each other, we can challenge harmful norms, create safer spaces, and empower each other to make informed and authentic choices about our lives and our bodies.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay true to yourselves. Charging 45.